Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is the Talamanca Review. It's Tuesday, the 25th of November, and it's 11:10 p.m. A Tuesday, and I find myself suddenly very busy on a number of fronts. It's really kind of amazing, actually. So, tonight I want to talk about opportunity and what opportunity means. So, in this game of life, we try to understand our Creator. I think most people do. Even I think atheists do. Agnostics do. We try to understand why we're here, what we're supposed to do, what a moment is. The moment is important. We try to understand every aspect of it. And that's, I say, a pursuit of the Creator. Normally when we say Creator or God, people generally think in religious terms. But I stopped thinking that way decades ago. I see science as an exploration, no different than the contemplative journey. The only difference being is the limitation of replicability and provability, which form the foundation of the scientific method. So if you have a thesis that water will boil and turn to steam when heated, for that thesis to be proven true, it has to work every time water is placed upon sufficient heat to boil the water, with the water in a conductive container that can pass the heat. Very banal example, I know, but it's better to keep things simple when you're trying to explain complicated things. I just incidentally explained parables to you there. So in the search for the meaning of self and the meaning of consciousness, the science of it only comes into play when two contemplatives, two journeymen meet, journeywomen, two travelers meet. And no, I don't mean that in the Masonic sense. I'm not sure what the Masons mean by a traveling man. Two travelers meet, people who are traveling in consciousness. And they both have active inner lives. They've both experienced schisms in reality, synchronicity being the low level and miracles being the far spectrum, and something like concatenating synchronicities somewhere in the middle. Concatenating synchronicities are where a chain of synchronicities line up and expound upon each other. There's a brilliant one in The Sopranos when Tony takes peyote in Las Vegas in season 6 after he murders Christopher, and he literally pierces through the veil. It's quite beautiful, actually. It was amazing how they would have these moments of profound spiritual insight in the middle of this subscriber television show about Italian gangsters in New Jersey. But that was the genius of The Simpsons. So two travelers meet and they compare notes, and it requires absolute honesty because one traveler might not know if another traveler is embellishing. But generally in these matters amongst true seekers, there's no embellishment. There's a sacredness to it. I don't often meet true contemplatives. Don't often meet them anymore. That could have something to do with the manner in which I have chosen to live and where I choose to live, how I choose to live. Although I must correct myself, I do meet travelers online. I think many of you, my listeners, are fellow travelers, and the exchanges we have in comments and emails is a form of communication amongst travelers. People traveling home. The journey of consciousness is to travel home. I've been a traveler my whole life. I don't know if in this lifetime I will get all the way home, which is self-realization, which is synonymous with God realization, because at the end of the journey, we merge with the creative principle. But I love trying and I love the journey. And there's an old maxim amongst contemplatives and contemplative circles that the consciousness work done in one life carries forward. Very interesting. So if you begin a journey towards self, you will probably in your next life pick up on that because the overriding soul imprint is already there, which is the magnetic or gravitational pull back home. So you get merit for that work. It's the opposite of the material stuff. You can't take the material stuff with you and bring it back when you reincarnate, but the spiritual stuff, yes. So one must always regard opportunity as a transaction with the Creator. One need only think about it for a moment or two to understand the veracity of that statement. So you're going about your life, minding your own business, and an opportunity comes your way. And then another opportunity, and then another. And this is what's happening to me now. I'm in the midst of a flurry of opportunities. And I'm responding to all of them. Because every opportunity is an exchange with the Creator. Opportunities are golden moments in our lives. Golden moments. The absence of opportunity in a life is indicative of spiritual impoverishment. The abundance of opportunity in life is indicative of spiritual enrichment. This carries forward in every aspect of life. So, the opportunities before me now are related to my trade on a couple of different fronts. One of them in Latin America and one of them sort of continental or spread out with a group of people. There's the opportunity of the tourism. So many opportunities. And I'm very, very grateful. The artificial intelligence and the way I've learned to use it is opening up all kinds of opportunities. The way you can use the AI is astounding once you get into it for productivity. The Talamanca Review Essays for the Zeitgeist is an example of that. And I have to say, I was quite amazed at how accurately the AI captured me and my voice. It's like I wrote those essays. Now, you don't take immediately what you get back. What you get back, even from the AI, once you put a transcript in and you say, write an essay in the first person around 1,500 words, that captures the meaning and purpose of this transcript. When you say first person, the AI will pick up the rhythms of your speech. It's kind of like a voice cloning, but in writing. Very fascinating. And then you can select individual paragraphs and have them rewritten or expanded upon. And I find the process of editing, when you're using AI based on a transcript of your spoken word, right? So I download the transcripts from YouTube. So I don't know how many words there would be in a 50-minute podcast. I know that I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks. So if you listen to a big book might be about like a 300-page book might be about 8 hours as an audiobook. So I guess an hour would be about 40 pages. 35, 40 pages, but the essays only come out at about 3 pages. Because there's a lot of umming and awing. I may repeat myself a little bit. And the AI will take those 35 pages and condense them to about 4.5 pages. 5 pages, 3 pages for a shorter essay. And then just like any first draft, whether I typed it out, you have to work on the essay after the first draft. There's a couple of revisions it goes through, guided by AI. Now, you can't use AI to write if you don't know how to write. You have to have editing abilities. You have to have the ability to receive prose and determine whether it's good, whether it has an energy or a life to it. You have to know where to make changes, where the AI may have showed bad judgment, and correct it on a paragraph by paragraph basis. So what I'm saying is, from my perspective, as after a lifetime as a writer, I'm telling you that AI is a phenomenal writing tool. I don't think it could do creative prose. I don't think it could, there's no way it could do The Stolen Child or God is an Economist or even Light of Darkness or Devil in Us. But for essays, for a collection of essays, for that particular genre, it's phenomenal. And the essay is an art form. You know, the best op-ed writers for the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Chicago Tribune, Seattle Times, they're basically essay writers. And an essay is just a non-fact-based personal viewpoint on a topic. Different from the reporting aspect of newspapers, which is the collection of information, the distillation of that information into a story, and the pivoting of that story off of first-person quotes from people that you interview. So I see a tremendous opportunity in the AI. And I've begun applying that as a creative practice. So right now, I'm working on a book similar to the Talamanca Review, Essays on the Zeitgeist, but from other voices in the public domain. So you've got Jordan Maxwell. I think Jordan deserves a really good book, a collection of essays which capture his best ideas. So I started working on that. You could do books based on some of the more popular podcasts out there. All these young hipsters like Danny Jones and Julian Doherty. And I don't think there's any breach of copyright or any intellectual property issues. You know, there's so much information in the podcasting format. But if you don't work from home, at a computer, at a desk where you can have a podcast on in the background while you're working, who has time for a 3-hour podcast every day? or 2 3-hour podcasts. So you have to get much more selective about what you consume. But a book can take a 3-hour podcast and write a 5-page essay on it that strips out all of the banter between the two participants in the conversation and distills the conversation to the salient points of what was said. It's kind of fascinating as I go through this. The results that I've been able to yield from the Jordan Maxwell transcripts are phenomenal. And then you can, when you're editing the essays, you can select certain things in the essay as you're reading it and editing it, and you just select it with your mouse, and you transport that selected text to the context window of the AI chat screen beside your writing tool, because I use the AI right inside a development environment where because the AI is being developed, its principal use now professionally is to speed up coding among coders. Coding is a form of writing. You write code. And so what I'm learning is that AI is really good at writing if you use it the way coders use it. So a coder will write some code and he'll look at it and he'll select something that is a bit wordy and choppy. The algorithm isn't quite there. And you can select 20 lines of code with your mouse, or you can write it into the chat queue. Is there any way to better represent the functions happening in line 789 to 821 in your lines of code? And the IDE will go and look at it and said, have you thought about doing this? It's absolutely brilliant. Now, I'm the last guy in the world you would have imagined enjoying AI. And what I'm noticing as I go out and I talk to my friends, and a lot of my creative and my spiritual friends, spiritual practitioners, travelers, they're having the same relationship with artificial intelligence. So I have a friend in Britain, and she's fascinated with genealogy and bloodlines for a thesis or an intuition or a theory that she has. And she's telling me that the AI has sped up her ability to analyze genealogies by about 10 or 20 times what she could do reading on her own, reading history, because genealogy is a kind of forensic research, almost like being a forensic accountant, Now, I wonder what you'd be able to access with the AI to do genealogy, if you would be able to if you could plug it into certain public-facing databases that have interfaces for the public to check birth and death records. The AI what would take you a week of going through files online or physically at the government registry with the births and deaths, the AI can do in 5 minutes. Now, I know there's all these horror stories out there, and many of them are coming from the most qualified people. The people who have been working in AI. But the way I work with AI and my friends work with artificial intelligence is not at the level of artificial general intelligence, which is Skynet. It's where conscious decision making and reasoning and autonomy come about in artificial intelligence, which I can't quite see yet. I can't quite see it. But it could come. But the only way it could come is if a consciousness was able to merge with the cybernetic structure that would simulate what the mind simulates in the physical experience. And acts through it like a kind of silicon body, electrical brain, silicon brain. That's the only way I can conceive of artificial general intelligence achieving autonomy. A computer in and of itself, based on everything I know about it, mind you, I don't understand enough about quantum computing, but the quantum realm is it's a living realm, right? It's a living realm. So it exists and there's life forms in there. All kinds of life forms in there, actually. There's life everywhere. Now, circling back to my thesis about opportunity. So the AI has brought me this very interesting opportunity to, at the very least, produce complicated electronic publications or Kindle books. I could do paperback as well, that take these powerful figures in the disclosure movement and synthesize them and their life's work into a collection of essays that can be read and internalized by people who want more answers about the world we live in. And in that context, it's also an opportunity to be of service. Now, service is an extension of the currency of the Creator. Opportunity is the currency that the Creator gives us. Service is the opportunity we give other people. The entire economy of God is predicated on opportunity. It's God's only currency. God doesn't work in precious minerals, rare earth metals, gold, silver, fiat notes, treasury bills, bonds, real estate. Those are all human inventions. The only currency God has is opportunity. And it goes to the root of the word. Because opportunity starts movement in your life. It starts impassioned, intentional manifestation. It starts the current of spirit manifesting things in you, and it begins with the opportunities that are given to you. Always regard opportunity in a sacramental way. Especially those opportunities which amplify your ability to be of service or your ability to survive. Getting a job is an opportunity. It feeds you, it pays for your home, it takes care of your dependents. And if enough revenue comes in, you can be of service. So I'm very happy with everything that's going on now, which is ironic. And irony is a thing we talk about a lot on the Talamanca Review. Is it not? Now, if God's only currency is opportunity, whether it be the opportunity to grow or the opportunity to survive, because being alive is the opportunity, the incarnation itself is an opportunity. So an opportunity to work and survive is also part of the Creator's currency. Then what would be the opposite of the Creator's presence? Do you see where I'm going with this? So the system we all come from, most of us anyways, I do have listeners all over the world, but I generally speak to a first world, North American and European mindset. What's going on in those worlds? Well, the opportunity, the currency of the Creator, that current is not flowing. It's been dammed up. But there's no force of man that can dam up the opportunities of the Creator. This is the root understanding of get out of Babylon. So Babylon is a system in which institutions take over, institutions which are guided by policy, whether the policy is overtly stated in legislation or tacitly expressed in the behavior of institutions and your government without overtly stating it. Mark Carney is never going to stand up in the Canadian Parliament. He's never going to stand up before a bank of microphones. Global News, Canada Broadcasting Corporation, CTV. Those are the big Canadian mainstream television networks for you Americans and Europeans. He's never going to stand in front of a bank of microphones and say it is the intent of this government to crush the indigenous white European culture that came here 300, 400 years ago and transmute this culture into something that goes beyond them and seeks to destroy them. I shouldn't say destroy, but limit their opportunity, even though that's the functioning policy, that's the de facto policy. The de jure policy, the written law, is all people are equal in Canada according to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. But a very short amount of time spent on social media listening to Canadians living there now will bear out what I'm saying, which is that the de facto is trumping the de jure. This might be a good opportunity to explain the difference between the two. The de jure law, or the de jure policy, is what's actually written down. The de facto policy is the way the situation described in de jure law actually functions. So the de jure functioning of Wall Street is you're not supposed to have inside information to make a trade on stocks. The de jure reality is that all big money is made on inside knowledge. Perfectly captured in Wall Street with Michael Douglas and Charlie Sheen. The de jure reality is you can't cross a road except at an intersection on a green light. I say that's the de jure law because there is actually a law in the books against jaywalking. But I've never met anyone who's received a ticket for jaywalking. So the de facto reality is that you can cross the road if you look both ways and you see that it's clear. The de jure law in the Western world is that everybody is equal and everybody has a fair opportunity. But the de facto reality is that the opportunity window for native multi-generational white Europeans is drying up. It hasn't hit the corporate level yet. It's mainly the public sector. This is why I don't know what it's like in the United States, but when you go into any form of civil service in Canada, it's just a collage of diversity, equity, and inclusion hires. So the de facto reality is DEI. The de jure reality is all people should have equal access to opportunity, and all selection should be based on merit. But there's really no such thing as merit in the civil service. The civil service, for the most part, is a make-work program, except for a very few highly necessary roles and functions. But like I was going to say policing, but I think DEI has infected policing as well. Now, the only way you can be separated from your Creator and the currency of your Creator, which is opportunity, is to allow yourself to exist in an economic system that's unreal, in which no real work is done and is controlled by systems that are run by policy atop the natural system, which is what we have now. Just imagine what it's going to be like when the digital ID comes into place and you have to show your digital ID or write or give access to your digital ID to employers, which may show a pictographic and short summary of you, your name, your face, where you were born, what hospital, your parents, where they were born. And hiring managers will be able to see that. I think based on the behavior of governments today in 2025, it's a normal and rational preoccupation to be concerned about, to be a little bit worried about digital identification. Imagine a world that might exist in 5 years where you go to check your bank account and you've been dinged for $500 for a fine that was applied to you based on your digital ID, which is necessary to access the internet, the fine being the result of a Facebook comment you made, even if your intent wasn't to be offensive or to be hateful. I'm encountering it now as I work with the AI on these essays. Some of the things I say in the Talamanca review, the AI doesn't want to work on. I've been told 3-4 times over the course of 70 essays I put in the Talamanca review book that the AI says I refuse to work on this because it's offensive and hateful. I shit you not. I shit you not. If you give an open-ended prompt like clean up the language for clarity and grammar, you will get DEI editing in AI. You have to be very careful about how you prompt. So we can see very clearly who's programming the AI. I can tell you quite seriously, quite frankly, the AI seems to, at this point in my journey with it, seems to have been instructed that a certain group of people are God's chosen and beyond criticism. Very interesting how it all works out. But here I am in the middle of the rainforest, in a flow of opportunity that is divine. All of the opportunities may not work out, but it doesn't matter. All opportunity should be undertaken with full positivism. You should regard an opportunity as a prayer said on your behalf from the other side and manifesting as the opportunity in your timeline. There's no guarantee every opportunity is going to work out. There's no guarantee that if I spend 3 weeks or a month working on a essential Jordan Maxwell collection of essays that I'll make $100 on it. But it doesn't matter. It should still be regarded and received with enthusiasm and love and gratitude. Opportunity is an amazing thing, and I think the way we deal with opportunity is highly indicative of the kind of people we are. When you look at very cynical people, one of their habits is not even trying to capitalize on opportunity. Oh, that'll never work out. Oh, that's a big scam. Oh, this is that, and that is that. We all know people like this, right? We all have friends like this. There's this touch of negativity in everything. And if you look at the core of it, it's an embedded system in their own thinking processes that is the triumph of the Babylonian system. And these people have forgotten that nothing can stop opportunity from coming to you. If you go to the hardware store or down to the local arborist, plant and tree place, outdoor garden market, and you get yourself a bunch of big cylindrical plastic tubs, about 2.5 feet across and about 1.5 or 2 feet deep, like big clothes baskets. You go to a dollar store. If you fill those tubs up with earth and throw in some fertilizer and some cow dung and a little bit of phosphorus, and you cut up potatoes into little cubes, and you put those potatoes with the earth into the plastic tubs, I promise you there's no DEI policy that is going to tell those potatoes not to grow for you. Same thing for tomato plants. They're going to grow for you the same way they would grow for anybody else. And growing things is the receipt of opportunity from the Creator as well. So we have this natural system, and we have this Babylonian system. And to regenerate opportunity in your life, you have to try your best to work through the Babylonian system. And this would be like a flower growing up in the cracks between two sidewalk blocks. Unusual, but it can happen. And you should also look for opportunities outside the Babylonian system. Because the Creator gives opportunity, not Mark Carney or Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Emmanuel Macron or Keir Starmer or Ursula Andress. It's the Creator. You can see the etchings of the consciousness of dependency now in people who are spiritually broken by the Babylonian system. And we're not even at basic universal income yet, universal basic income, UBI. I think this podcast tonight, spontaneous as it has been one of the best articulations I've given on the dangers of codependence with institutions. It's another way as well of looking at the Trump presidency. Please don't bite my head off. I see no great merit in the right or the left in politics now, in Canada or the United States or anywhere else I look, with the exception of maybe Hungary, Poland. But if you'll look at the Antifa people, and you look at the people that have lined up to debate Charlie Kirk, or Patrick Bet David when he does it as well, and he goes and meets his contrarians and sits down at a table, and they line up to sit down and ask him questions and try and break his life paradigm. I want you to look closely at those people and realize, what do they all have in common? Rather than returning to an economy of the Creator, they want more institutionalization. And the final form of institutionalization is communism, which is a satanic system of government which will absolutely destroy the human spirit. Sure as I breathe, it'll do that. I'm going to call this podcast Opportunity is Currency. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review.